Are you guys ever just sitting around vibing and chilling, watching YouTube videos when you get a commercial for some dumb conservative shit popping up on your on the ads before the videos or in the bottom below, right? Has that ever happened to you guys? Maybe it's a Abby? Yeah, her name's Abby, right? Abby Shapiro video. Maybe it's a Donald Trump ad, or maybe if you're like me, it's this fucking channel. Alliance Defending Freedom. We've actually covered these people before, way before they got as big as they are now, with like 18.5k subs. We'll get into Alliance Defending Freedom soon, don't worry. Or get into the idea of these people being like funded by massive like billionaire dark money groups and stuff like that, because it's the right, of course. This video we covered this video when free speech is attacked at public universities, where we have based Thanos here, who did the unforgivable act of scuffing up some chalk on the sidewalk that some pro-life kids wrote, when all they had to do was go to a different sidewalk where they could actually write out their pro-life message. It's just that particular part of the sidewalk wasn't an area where the students were allowed to just write shit randomly. It was that specific part of the sidewalk they weren't allowed to do it in. But that was like an infringement of their free speech, I guess, by their standards. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Regardless, though, before we cover the newest video by Alliance Defending Freedom, the one that keeps fucking popping up in my ad recommendations, let's find out what Alliance Defending Freedom actually is, because I looked it up today, and an SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center post came up. Now, SPLC isn't perfect, but usually you can check the credentials of a right-wing organization through SPLC and find out what their deal is. Fucking audio stutter. Hey guys, are you guys experiencing some like crazy audio stutter right now? Like, Is my audio cutting out, or what's going on? You guys need to be more detailed than just audio stutter. Is there a way I can fix it or anything? Okay, then it's just you, Zamp. Fix your headset or something. Okay. Let's look into it. Founded by some 30 leaders of the Christian right, the Alliance Defending Freedom is a legal advocacy and training group that has supported the recriminalization of sexual acts between consenting LGBTQ adults, so they want gay sex criminalized in the US, and criminalization abroad, and they want it criminalized elsewhere too. Okay. Has defended state-sanctioned sterilization of trans people abroad, so they want trans people sterilized. Okay, pretty standard, okay. Has contended that LGBTQ people are more likely to engage in pedophilia, an untrue stat. In fact, LGBTQ people are more likely to be the victims of pedophilia and other sexual crimes, and claims that a homosexual agenda will destroy Christianity and society. Well, now that's ridiculous. ADF also works to develop religious liberty legislation and case law that will allow the denial of goods and services to LGBTQ people on the basis of religion. So basically trying to make it so any business owner or whatever can just deny services of any kind, you know, tenants, employers, things like that, for people being gay. Pretty standard. Since the election of President Trump, ADF has become one of the most influential groups informing the administration's attack on LGBTQ rights. So these guys have their fingers in Trump's administration. They're probably the ones behind Trump's attempt to try to keep gay people or LGBT people from adopting children. Remember when Trump's administration went to the Supreme Court and asked the Supreme Court, or was it Congress or the Senate? I don't remember exactly. I think it was the Supreme Court. If it was possible to restrict the ability for LGBTQ people to adopt children, that was probably these guys' recommendation, or they were somewhat involved with that, most likely, as we can see. So you can get really down into the dumps with this organization, but what these guys do is they're funded by some really, really rich right-wing Christian billionaires, you know, as many right-wing figures are. But the scary part is, they have so much money behind them, and if you're like a right-winger who is sued or arrested for any dumb shit, they'll pay your legal fees. The kids that did the pro-choice thing on the sidewalk and were told they had to do it on a different side of the sidewalk sued their school and won because they had tons of money. It was funded completely by this company. The pro-choice like fasci kids were able to sue their school and win because these people paid for their lawyers. How scary is that? That an open anti-LGBT hate group has this much power behind it, has their fingers in the Trump administration, all of that. And of course they're getting at, like, this channel only has, like, they don't even have like 20k subs. I have more than twice as many subscribers as them, and they're having ad space bought on their videos. So yeah. We know what's we know what's up here, right? Let's go ahead and just get a quick look at their newest video. By the way, I think I've I've done a good job of clarifying that this is like a very well-funded propaganda organization or whatever, and I don't need to go into the details of the actual story behind what they're going to tell. It probably didn't happen the way they're telling it, so I don't feel like digging into it. I'm tired, okay? Let's just see what they have to say, all right? And then I'll go on my little tangent about why this is such a dangerous thing.
Should the government have the power to pry into the very private conversations of the counseling room, to treat certain topics as off-limits, and to threaten those who discuss off-limit topics with crushing fines? What a ridiculous question, right? Why should some governor or mayor or bureaucrat have any power to dictate the content of conversations between an adult patient and the trusted counselor of their choice?
Oh, but isn't it hilarious how these same people literally want trans people to be sterilized and forced by the fucking government, want a government-enforced punishment, criminalization of two consenting gay adults having sex. What they're mad about here is that but I bet I'm assuming from what I've seen so far is that many psychologists and psychiatrists and like therapists and whatnot, if you are like gay or anything like that and you talk to them, they're most likely going to tell you, I mean, like, let's say you're trans or something, I guess, I don't know. If you're like a trans girl and you don't know you're trans yet, and you go to the therapist and you're like, yeah, I don't know, I don't feel really comfortable in my body. I really like wearing dresses and I like putting on makeup and you know, I just kind of feel like I don't know, I don't feel like I don't really feel comfortable like being a guy, you know? Now, any good therapist or anyone trained and understanding of the field of psychology would be like, yes, I see. You're a woman. And they'd explain, okay, so this is what transgenderism is, yada yada yada, gender dysphoria, blah blah blah. But yeah, and that's what anybody who is worth their salt within the psych field would tell you. But it is possible for doctors, individual doctors, I should clarify, to be wrong. What's the John Murray? I think his name is. Well, yeah, they would offer it as an option. Obviously, for a minute, I'm using this as like a over exaggerated, funny explanation of generally how it would go. Right, Charles Murray. Individual doctors are wrong about certain topics all the time. You guys know that, right? How like somebody who may be really good at one field feels the need to step out of their field and talk about other shit, and then they're fucking dumb. Or even if they're talking about their field, they say dumb shit about it. Jordan Peterson is really good with his self-help stuff and his psychology stuff. When he talks about biology or sociology or anything like that, he's a fucking idiot. J.K. Rowling is a fantastic author, I would say. I know many of you guys will disagree, but she's a pretty fucking good author. She made one of the most popular franchises ever. When she talks about trans people, Very different. Very different. She's not too good at that. And then, of course, there's the types like Elon Musk. Like, Elon Musk seems to be a fairly competent, what he's like, an engineer or something like that. When he talks about other topics, he's fucking brain dead. So this tendency tends to happen. Sometimes you'll get like a random person within the medical field that disagrees with the actual like consensus, and their personal beliefs interrupt their he's not an engineer? I thought he's an engineer. What the fuck does Elon Musk do? He's a dipshit? Wait, is he not like a fairly decent, like, knowledgeable person when it comes to engineering? Guys, I know he's a CEO and I know he doesn't do anything now, but wasn't he an engineer before? What did he do before? I know his dad owns apartheid mines. I could have sworn I heard that he was an engineer. Listen, I don't care enough about Elon Musk to care, okay? He's a businessman, okay? He's a businessman, but when he talks about socialism, he tweets dumb shit like, capital is just 1,000+ pages of I want free stuff, you know? Stuff like that. Anyway, my point is that there are people who are professionals in the medical community, or in any particular field, who have personal disagreements with the consensus behind certain issues, right? So maybe you have a psychologist or a therapist who's very transphobic, despite the fact that overall, among the community of psychology, being trans is very well accepted and understood. So you have let's say you have a closeted trans girl goes to a therapist. I don't know what the story is going to be here. I wouldn't trust it out of these people's mouth. Maybe you got a closeted trans girl, goes to a therapist, talks to them, and a therapist recommends some kind of conversion therapy or something. I can say maybe it's appropriate for the government to step in there and say, hey, what you are recommending to this person is not going to help them. It's going to harm them, and we're going to intervene here. I think that's okay. I'm totally fine with that.
Can you imagine a more flagrant violation of free expression? Of infringing on your fundamental...
Yeah, I can. For example, wanting the state to decide who you can and can't have sex with among consenting adults. Or having state-mandated sterilization of trans people. Which is what these people lobby for. Yeah, that sounds like a much more in-your-face infringement of your constitutional rights, in my opinion, personally. Like being forcibly sterilized, yeah, not being allowed to have sex with the other consenting adult you choose to, yeah, pretty bad.
Right to speak, to inquire, to seek truth? No. But New York City officials passed... I
don't want to pause this too much, okay? I really don't want to pause this too much. I hate it. Or I love it. I do hate it, though. How right-wing speakers will never be super specific about what they're talking about. They just talk about, like, some general, like, nondescript ability to say what you think, to speak your mind, to seek truth, to say the truth, like, things like that. Like, they're always too afraid to say specifically what they want to talk about. Because they know if they specifically say what their message is, what they're talking about, that the general population, the people who this propaganda is supposed to appeal to, like the PragerU type, like PragerU viewer types, oh, they delete comments? That's hilarious. Imagine deleting comments while at the same time preaching freedom of speech. That's hilarious. Yeah, so they delete people's comments. Oh, that's hilarious, yeah. I used to delete my comments too if they say the N-word or something in the comments or something. Like if someone comments, you're like N-word, F-slur, blah, 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 I'll usually like ban them from my comment section, but I don't even do that anymore because I get so many comments these days. But if you just disagree with me, like I'll usually just comment, come debate me. Like, holy shit, imagine being such snowflakes and being $1 billion, like being funded by by billionaires. What snowflakes? But they're always too afraid to say exactly what they mean, because if they do, if they say what they advocate for is sterilization of people and banning who or criminalizing certain sexual acts and certain sexual things, then they know the general population will very quickly reject their messages, which they don't want. They want to have that appeal.
A law that blocked people in New York from seeking out professional counselors to help them move away from unwanted same-sex attraction. How did the city enforce this law?
Excuse me?
Seeking out professional counselors to help them move away from unwanted same-sex attraction. How did
ban people from seeking out counselors that help them escape unwanted same-sex attraction? Like a gay person was... Oh, so conversion therapy. Yeah, so they banned conversion therapy. Why do they have to blur the line so much? It's conversion therapy. They banned conversion therapy. Okay, cool. All right, perfect. Yeah, I'm glad. Conversion therapy is like fucking barbaric and terrible.
How did the city enforce this law? By levying fines on therapists who offered this type of counseling.
Yeah.
Talking about a parking ticket fine.
I think people who try to... No, I think therapists that try to engage in conversion therapy should have their license taken away, and they should probably go to jail. Personally. As I'm very anti-state, I'm very anti-police, in blah, blah, blah. But as long as we're living in the system we do now, in which the police have as much power as they do, and we have a very strong state, as long as we're living in the system, I feel like there are groups of people that should probably get hit with it pretty hard. Yeah, therapists that try to offer conversion therapy should probably be fucking locked in the slammer, okay, and have their license taken away. They should not be allowed to practice in any capacity, in my humble opinion. That is always right and never wrong.
New York City threatened fines of up to $10,000. The law also blocked
Damn.
workers struggling with gender identity disorder from seeking professional counselors who could help them achieve more comfort with their biological sex. But
yeah. Imagine you know what this is actually? Forcing a trans person to not transition is more or less the same as a cis depressed person going to a therapist and saying that they have suicidal thoughts, and the therapist saying, "Just do it. Just kill yourself, you fucking piece of shit. The world will be better without you. No one's gonna miss you. Everyone's gonna be happy when you're dead." Like, more or less doing that. That's more or less what that is. Because, statistically speaking, and this is the consensus among the medical community, trans people, or those with gender dysphoria, are way less likely to commit suicide after transitioning than they are if they don't transition. So forcing upon them conversion therapy or not allowing them to transition is more or less condemning them to death. What is it, 40% of the time? What's the statistic that the alt-righters like to say? Haha, 40%? Yeah, that 40% mostly accounts for pre-transition trans people. Post-transit, 41%, yeah. Post-transition trans people are significantly less likely to kill themselves, especially if they have the support of family. I think pre-transition trans youth are 60% less likely to kill themselves with just parental support. Nothing else, just parental support. It's actually crazy. Yeah, pre-transition lifetime suicide attempt risk goes up way higher. It's insane. Yeah, so, somebody who is more or less condemning their gender dysphoria having patient to death, it should probably have their license taken away. Yeah, no, that's more or less fine. Yeah, I would expect the same if a therapist tried to if a therapist came along and said, "Yeah, no, just cut your wrists if you're suicidal. Just do it. Yeah, just go ahead and kill yourself. No one's gonna miss you." Yeah, I'd expect the same from there. It's the same thing. No difference.
Not the other way around. So a counselor who helped a man who feels like a woman but wants to live as a man could be fined $10,000. But a counselor...
I'm sorry. What? So, is it possible that there are trans people who have gender dysphoria, they feel like they're one gender but want to stay the other gender, exist? Sure. But generally, in the overwhelming majority of those cases, the reason why they want to stay the gender they already are because of outside societal pressures. It will not make and obviously we've talked about the statistics, they're way more likely to kill themselves if they don't transition. We should instead of making it so that they feel more comfortable living as they're the gender they already exist as, or that they were assigned at birth, maybe we should try to work on making a society that is free of people like those behind the ADF here, and instead ostracize those that would make them feel as though they need to maintain the gender identity that they were assigned at birth, rather than living as they feel more comfortable. Maybe that's what we should do.
Who helped a man live as a woman, that's totally different according to the city of New York. One counselor, Dr. David Schwartz, challenged New York City's brazen overreach. Dr. Schwartz, an Orthodox Jew himself, works almost exclusively with Orthodox Jewish patients. In that community, traditional marriage, children, and family are high priorities. Indeed, God-ordained priorities.
Cringe. Very cringe.
Some of Dr. Schwartz's clients are men who are sexually attracted to other men, but because of their religious beliefs and their personal life goals, want to experience opposite sex attraction so they can marry, form a natural family, and live consistently with their faith.
Hey guys, if you're gay, believe it or not, I know this is like a really hotly contested topic nowadays. You know, back in the 80s, if you're born gay, just like you're born straight, or bi, or pan, or ace, or any other sexual attraction. And to change that requires really, really fucked up. Like, I think, obviously there's like the most brutal, like shock therapy and everything, but imagine how, if you're straight, which I am, the way I try to like put myself in the shoes of somebody who's like gay getting like conversion therapy is imagine me, who is purely straight and attracted to women, being because you have to have a negative. The way they do it generally is they give you some negative feedback to signs of you being attracted to like opposite sex, right? So imagine with like shock therapy, imagine they put a bunch of pictures of hot women on the screen. If I pop a chubby while seeing some hot girls on the screen, they shock me or some shit. And then if they show hot dudes on screen and I don't pop a chubby, then they shock me until I start to pop a chubby when I see hot dudes, and stop shocking me if I don't pop a chubby to the hot girls. Okay, that's more or less how it's done. If we're really centralize it and everything. Imagine how fucking terrible it is. Now, overall, what they're defending here is conversion therapy, which is disgusting and terrible. But let's just let the video finish off, because I don't feel like responding to all of this.
Some of Dr. Schwartz's patients have achieved those goals. He simply listens and talks to them, giving them emotional
support. That's terrible.
And advice. That's it. Dr. Schwartz and his patients engage in private conversations about very private and complex issues. His patients are adults who seek him out, and they're always...
I would not. We've already looked into the credentials of this organization. Don't take what they're saying at face value. If you're really curious about what actually happened here, go out of your way and look into these stories. Look up the actual look up the actual story somewhere that isn't fucking Breitbart or the Daily Caller or whatever, and find out what actually happened. I guarantee you, it's not this. It's never how these fucking PragerU videos describe it. It's never like that.
Always free to disagree and walk away. Yet, the New York City Council believed it could insert itself into these types of private conversations.
Yep.
Dr. Schwartz and Alliance Defending Freedom disagreed. As ADF Senior Counsel Roger Brooks said, all New Yorkers and all Americans deserve the right to private conversations.
Ooh, who is this guy? Let me see who this guy is.
As ADF Senior Counsel Roger Brooks said,
Roger Brooks. ADF Roger Brooks. Roger G. Brooks, Alliance Defending Freedom. Can we see this guy's... Roger G. Brooks. Living as a Christian in Big Law. Obituary. I don't think he... Did he die? No, that's definitely not him. I wish. In a video game. I don't think this guy is a big enough name for all the dirt to be out on him. Fuck. ADF Legal. Here's his page on their website. Senior Counsel with the Alliance is a key member of the Center focus on efforts on free student privacy, parental rights. So more or less just like shitting on gay people and letting like gay people have shitty stuff. Prior to joining ADF in 2018, Brooks worked with the New York law firm of current 25 years, 19 as a partner in. Yes, let me guess. This multi-billion-dollar funded company funded this dude's lawsuit against the state of New York, and they won. That's what I'm going to assume is what happened.
New Yorkers and all Americans deserve the right to private conversations free from government control. New York's attempt to regulate and censor private discussions between adults and their counselors violated freedom of speech, a core right that the First Amendment protects.
No, it doesn't.
The city eventually backed down and repealed the law, but only after Dr. Schwartz's team of ADF attorneys went toe-to-toe with the city council in court. The troubling thing about this one isolated case of a city's flagrant intrusion into the personal conversations of its residents is that it isn't isolated at all. The really troubling thing about what New York City did is that it's just the tip of the iceberg of how some government officials are subverting our basic American rights. They have forgotten something the U.S. Supreme Court has...
Yes, our basic American rights to force our children to be to be gay conversion therapied and to sterilize trans people and to criminalize gay sex among consenting adults. Yes. Who's really against the against freedom of speech here and freedom of expression?
Repeatedly said. The people lose when the government is the one dictating which ideas should prevail. In a free society, the people decide what ideas are worthy of discussion, not the government.
Yes. All right, and so they probably won or some shit. We need to talk about this, because this is a huge problem if you're a lefty. There are so many massive right-wing billionaire figures that fund these right-wing propaganda organizations and what's the word I'm looking for? Dispersers? I don't know. I'm having a brain fart in the exact word I'm thinking of. You got the Blaze TV. You got people like Louder with Crowder. You got people like PragerU. You've got Alliance Defending Freedom. You could probably go down the list forever and find so many of these billionaire-funded massive organizations that have so much money behind them that are able to flood the political space with shit tons of right-wing talking points for unknowing people who are, just looking for their political identity in this world to stumble across and be, propagandized to. In the case of the ADF, these people specifically will fund your lawsuit against anyone if they can make a video out of it and it can look good for them, right? Like the kids that sued their school did it. This fucking rabbi therapist who wanted to do gay conversion therapy did it and won because they have so much money behind them, they can afford really fucking good lawyers. And this is really scary because if you're a lefty, if you're a leftist trying to spread lefty content, what do you have? There's no... The closest that the most well-funded leftist figures I can think of are those that were on, what is that channel that Michael Brooks was on? It's where they have, the square tile background. I never really watched them much. It's not really my thing. The tile backgrounds with, the blue and the white and the red, and Michael Brooks is on there, Sam Cedar's on there, and they do, the talking... Majority Report. Yeah, the Majority Report with Sam Cedar and all the guests and all that. That's pretty 2IT kinda. That's the most we really got. Above that, we've got ContraPoints, who is solely funded by YouTube ad revenue, whatever she makes from that, because YouTube demonetizes everything these days. And Patreon. Who else is there from there? I mean, Destiny is pretty big. He's not a leftist, but he's a liberal. He definitely does a lot of anti-fash stuff. He is funded by, other than him, he does stocks and stuff like that outside of his own memes, but he's funded by website subs and donations on his website. Same goes for Vosh. Same goes for me. PhilosophyTube? And H-Bomber Guy, Patreon. Go down the list. There are no billionaire-funded lefty creators. Sadly, because holy fuck, that would be nice. I wish I didn't have to worry about paying my bills. This just isn't a thing. They don't exist. Unless, one of you guys who donated is a billionaire, then I guess technically I'm billionaire funded. It's really scary how much power and money the right has behind it. Well, the left are basically formed up of these, small community-funded creators, independent creators, and small organizations of those creators, like TYT and Majority Report, right? That are mostly funded by, Michael Brooks, of course, that are mostly funded by viewers of said programs. Like, it is definitely pretty sad and worrying, because that means they've got a lot more power than we do, and that's pretty unfortunate. But hey, there's a silver lining somewhere. I don't know what the silver lining is, guys. All I can tell you is that our enemy, the right, has a lot of fucking money behind it, and all we can do is keep on responding to them and destroying their ideas and hoping we can flood the algorithm with enough contrary rhetoric that they won't affect as many people. Don't know. Money in politics is very powerful. You guys have no idea. It's crazy. And the right has a lot of it. So I guess that's all.